As computer science students, we spend our time dealing with high-level APIs and cloud architectures. It is easy to visualize the internet as an invisible, wireless ether, or perhaps a massive grid beamed down from low Earth orbit satellites. But the hardware running our world is much more grounded. 99% of all international data physically travels through thick, barnacle-covered tubes resting in the mud at the absolute bottom of the sea. If you pulled up every active submarine cable on the ocean floor and laid them end to end, you would have over 1.4 million kilometers of infrastructure. That's enough physical cable to stretch all the way to the moon and back, almost twice. Down on Earth, this massive network forms highly centralized physical clusters. If you look at global routing maps, you will see extreme bottlenecks, where thousands of miles of these lines converge directly onto the shores of major tech hubs, like Mumbai or Chennai. The invisible digital ether we rely on to push code and deploy servers is completely dependent on a fragile network of physical hoses, resting in one of Earth's most high-pressure, hostile environments. Let's strip away the software and look at layer 1 of the OSI model. The actual physical medium carrying your 4K video streams, secure bank database queries, and encrypted messages is a fiber optic strand, and that core glass strand is only about the size of a single human hair. To keep that tiny glass core from shattering under thousands of pounds of oceanic pressure, engineers wrap it in heavy armor. They layer on petroleum jelly, copper, polycarbonate, aluminum, and high-strength steel wires. Even with all that shielding, the final cable sitting on the ocean floor is surprisingly thin, roughly the diameter of a standard garden hose. Transmitting data this way introduces a pure physics problem: signal decay. As pulses of light travel hundreds of kilometers through the glass fiber, the signal naturally degrades and dims. You cannot shoot a laser across an entire ocean without help. Every 50 to 100 kilometers, the signal passes through a repeater, a $1 million 3-foot-long hardware booster. It catches the fading light and amplifies that degraded data back to full strength, pulling thousands of volts of electricity directly through the cable's own copper shielding layer to power itself. In network architecture, physical distance equals latency. Tech giants are now spending billions to lay their own private cables, plotting the absolute straightest geographical lines possible across the ocean floor. When it comes to high-frequency algorithmic stock trading, shaving off 5 milliseconds of physical ping time provides a competitive edge worth billions of dollars. With all this fragile hardware resting in the open ocean, packet loss happens constantly. A viral 2014 video convinced the internet that sharks biting cables were biological DDoS attackers. In reality, marine life accounts for less than 1% of all underwater network faults. The primary cause of physical damage is routine human maritime activity. 2/3 of all physical cable breaks happen when commercial ships drop their heavy anchors in the wrong coordinates, or commercial trawlers drag heavy fishing nets across the ocean floor, tearing right through the infrastructure. The secondary threat comes from extreme geology. Underwater earthquakes trigger turbidity currents, which are essentially high-speed underwater mud avalanches. These currents carry enough kinetic force to snap multiple heavily armored cables simultaneously. So when entire regions suddenly drop off the map, it is rarely a sophisticated cyber attack. The culprit is almost always mundane human clumsiness or a violent geological event severing the physical link. Any standard computer science curriculum teaches you to build redundancy into your systems and avoid single points of failure. Yet on a global and geopolitical scale, hardware bottlenecks still exist. This satellite imagery shows the circular shockwave and massive ash cloud from the 2022 underwater volcanic eruption near Tonga. The physical devastation to the surrounding ocean floor was immense. That single geological blast managed to snap Tonga's one and only international submarine cable. Overnight, an entire nation was effectively deleted from the global network. With no DNS, no external routing, and no communication, the country faced a total internet blackout for weeks. This map shows the physical geography of the Red Sea, a critically narrow corridor between major landmasses. Almost all digital traffic traveling between Europe and Asia is forced through a tight bundle of physical cables resting at the bottom of this specific stretch of water. If just a handful of these lines are damaged or severed in this confined space, the available bandwidth for billions of users across India and Southeast Asia would instantly plummet. Because traffic is highly concentrated in these physical lines, they are prime targets for intelligence agencies. During the Cold War, the U.S. military launched Operation Ivy Bells, sending specially equipped Navy submarines to attach recording taps directly onto Soviet communication lines. Today, intercepting that data is much more complex. Since modern packets are transmitted as pulses of light rather than electrical currents, you cannot sniff the signal from the outside. To intercept the data, intelligence operatives have to physically tap into the cable, carefully bending or breaking the microscopic glass fiber without disrupting the entire feed. Despite their immense strategic value, these network backbones have a hard expiration date. After about 25 years of resting in salt water, the materials degrade and the transmission technology becomes obsolete. Retrieving them from the ocean floor is far more expensive than simply laying a new line, so the telecom companies just leave them down there. Today, there are thousands of miles of dead, dark fiber resting quietly in the mud, slowly being overgrown by deep-sea marine life and coral reefs. The next time you push code to a remote server or pull data from an API, remember where those bits are actually going. Your data is not floating peacefully in the clouds. It is shooting at the speed of light through a heavily armored garden hose, resting in a permanent geological graveyard of the information age.